Magdalena Mountains, New Mexico, 1881. A killer stalks his victim from behind. His weapon? The mountain beneath his feet. A woman runs bravely through a blizzard in darkness to save not just her own life, but that of her children. Stranded and stalked on the very mountain, a monster is on a killing spree. The Stone Killer of Socorro County. 130 years of stories, 0 records, 1 woman with no grave. A chain of events that lead to a midnight run through a blizzard, with a plea for help. The camp sat above 1,000 miners at the Kelly mine, close enough to watch the trails, far enough that no one heard a sound. No gun. Gunshot could carry for miles in canyon walls, but a stone, however, a stone made no sound. She appears in every version of the tale, although no one can agree. Was she his wife or someone he brought there? But they all agree on what she did on that trail. She would approach them from ahead. They would stop, unsuspecting as to what might happen. Their attention on her, backs to the slopes, the winds of the canyon masking any other sounds, and the killer would come up from behind. They never saw it coming. Same method, same trail. This time the man on the ground was wearing a badge, and that was the only way anyone could tell who he was. Every account says something changed in him after this point. The killings before were quick. What happened after wasn't. Days later, a family comes up the same trail. What happens to them was different from everything before. Every account that says this see the same thing. It was not quick and it was not clean. She knew exactly what that meant. She had seen 2 things, what he did to a stranger and what he was becoming, and her children were in the same camp with him. She began to fear for all of their lives. She had one option left, her choice clear. 1 opportunity, 1 dangerous chance. The storm came in fast, and it came at night. Visibility was gone. She walked into the dark, toward a mine she couldn't see, to ask for help from a man that stalked his prey, a monster, over 5 miles, on maybe a clear day, 90 minutes. The Donner Party's Forlorn Hope covered less than 2 miles a day in the same conditions. This is what she ran in a single night. The wind, the snow in her face, downhill the only constant. She never stopped, not once. When she reached the mine, some say she collapsed at the outer buildings. Some say she walked in and asked for the marshal. Not all agree, but everyone agrees on is she told them what was up on that mountain. Before first light, the posse was already forming. The storm had passed. The trail was open again. They headed up. They rode up through the snow. It was slow after the blizzard, a hard climb that took hours. Her children found inside a hollow log, alive, cold but alive. That log had sheltered them through the blizzard. A grave was there, marked with stones, not hidden, visible from the trail. She buried the lawman that had been murdered so they'd find him. The camp was empty, lantern cold. Tools and the pack saddle still lay where they'd been left. The rest was gone. The camp stood empty. The outlaw was nowhere to be found. Now, could someone really run that run in a blizzard? The terrain the legend places this account in drops nearly 5,400 feet from crest to basin, 5 miles of that terrain, at the best realistic pace through deep snow, 1.5 miles per hour. And that wind chill, minus 14.8, is not the background condition. So here are the 2 numbers that decide it. How long the run actually takes, and how long the children could last in that log before it stopped mattering. The log is enclosed, out of direct wind, 2 bodies sharing heat instead of 1. That changes the next number. Best case, she reaches Kelly in 3 hours 20 minutes. An unprotected child at minus 15 degrees has 35 to 55 minutes. A hollow log changes that. 2 children in an enclosed space sharing body heat out of direct wind, their cooling rate is measurably slower than direct exposure. The hollow log scenario closes the gap from 140 minutes down to 80. If she was not running 5 miles, if Kelly's outer camp was closer than the mine buildings, both curves clear. Now we'll examine the whole story. Every claim. Not just the murder. The killing method, the tactic, the blizzard itself, 6 claims, the whole story, including the one everyone skips. 5 to 10 kilograms of fieldstone swung overhead from half a meter. 25 to 49 joules of impact energy at the point of contact. The temporal bone fracture threshold is 20 to 68 joules. 25 to 49 lands inside it. A storm in December 1885 dropped snow from New Mexico to Kansas City, right through the Magdalena Range. A blizzard recorded during the legend window. This isn't speculation, it is a fact. Even knowing the terrain, a true whiteout removes every visual landmark. Navigation by sight becomes impossible. In a whiteout, the mountain becomes the only compass. Down is the only reliable direction. She would have had to move by feel and slope alone. This is the critical difference. Without shelter, exposure time is measured in minutes. With the hollow log, the window extends significantly. The data shows the gap clearly. The Magdalena drainage runs consistent downhill toward Kelly. If she kept the fall line, she had a chance. If she lost it, the math says she had minutes. Her survival through the blizzard seems unlikely. But what if the story came out a real event that happened around 1884? January 23, 1884. In the cold hours after midnight, 200 men stormed the Socorro jail and dragged Joel Fowler out before any court could stop him. Fowler had a long reputation for sudden violence when he drank. He'd already killed a Texas sheriff as a teenager and was tied to several other deaths in New Mexico. Fresh from selling his ranch with over $50,000 in cash, he rode into Socorro and went on a drunken rampage, firing into windows and forcing townspeople to dance or sing at gunpoint. When traveling salesman James Cole tried to intervene, Fowler pulled a hidden knife and stabbed him through the heart. Cole died the next day. A jury convicted Fowler. The judge sentenced him to hang. His lawyers want to stay on a technicality and sent the case to the Supreme Court. Socorro wasn't waiting. As the mob hauled in toward the tree, Fowler called out for heaven's angels to save him. A voice from the crowd answered, "It's a cold night for angels, Joel. Better call on someone nearer town." That line was printed. That line is real. And that specific, documented cold night in Socorro could have been the seed for everything that grew after. It took more than one event for a story like this to survive 104 years. Several true moments had to come together and be carried forward through generations of telling. The county had standing vigilante bands, the Colgadores, who rode out and answered crimes the law was too slow to reach. A posse forming itself at dawn was not invented for this legend. It was something Socorro County actually did. In 1887, up at Kelly, an 18-year-old named Annie Bishop died young and hard, leaving a small son behind in the camps. A real young woman the record barely held, and a child who outlived her. And at the Kelly mine, a man was shot dead in the open, while the one the crowd actually wanted lived, because he went down into the shaft and waited in the dark until it was over. A death on the mountain and a survivor who lived by hiding. Now watch what time does to events like these, spread across years and different families when they happened. But a community does not store them in separate drawers. It tells them together, near the fire, in winter. Each retelling moves them a little closer. A vigilante posse, a lost young woman, a child left behind, a man who survived in the dark. 4 real things, 4 generations of telling, and they migrate toward each other until they read as one night, one woman, one killer. This is how a legend grows, without anyone lying. The pieces were all true. The telling only pressed them into one shape, small enough to carry, and the shape it kept. They kept her story. Not her name, her nation. Record gave her nothing. Tradition gave her everything. So you tell me, was it ever one killer up there, or 4 real things a county could not bear to forget separately? Do you think she lived to walk back down? Or did she die on that run, and her children carry her words the rest of the way? Or was there never a run at all, and a woman built the whole story herself to explain something she could not say plainly? Put your verdict in the comments. Insider information has always moved faster than the record. Perfect timing. Someone always knows before the market does. The question is whether the edge comes from a screen or from something older. Watch the Eddie Murphy Law That Caught a Soldier next.